the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of AVCrosstalk, brought to you by the fine folks at AVNation. My name is Tom LeBlac. I'm the editor of Commercial Integrator and Tech Decisions, and I'm very excited to get to have a little role in tonight's debate as your host and moderator. I'm very excited to be involved in this. I think that what the AVNation guys are doing with this debate concept is awesome. You know, people in this industry are debating stuff all the time. They're arguing all the time. It's about time we had an audience for it. We all get a chance to enjoy some of it. So before we meet our combatants, I have to go over a few rules, and bear with me because I have to read them. Okay, the first rule is for you, the audience. Remember that what you're watching is supposed to be a debate, not a friendly little chat. The idea is for strongly opinionated folks to make a case for their strong opinions on important issues facing the AV industry. And when it's over, it's up to you to pick the winner by voting on Twitter using the hashtag AVCrosstalk. So, before we begin, our producer George Tucker and the AVNation legal department wants to make 2 points very perfectly clear. First and foremost, all opinions of the participants are their own, and not necessarily those of their employers, any affiliated trade organizations, AVNation.tv, or its sponsors. Secondly, please remember this is a debate presented here for education and enjoyment. Any positions advocated or defended may not necessarily, in whole or part, be those of the participants. They're trying to win. So, finally, this is AV Crosstalk. Tonight's debate topic, design build versus design bid. Which model is better? So, design build, as you know, is when an integration firm acts as the primary point of contact for a client from as close to the beginning of a project as possible, consulting with the client on their needs, executing the system design, and following through with an installation. Design bid, as you also know, is when a specifying consultant does what it does best, consulting with the client from the beginning of a project, gaining an understanding of their needs, and executing the system design before it's put out for bid by integration firms hoping to win the project and execute the installation that the consulting firm has spec'd. Many design build integrators swear by design build models, obviously, because they feel that, you know, working closely with their clients from consulting, system design, installation, post-installation service, all this sets the project up for success. Many consultants feel strongly that the design bid model allows all parties to do what they do best, with the consultant leveraging its expertise to design a system that objectively addresses all the client's needs. So what we're debating here tonight is really how this industry ought to make money, and what could be more important than that. So, tonight's contestants are well known in the AV community and the AV Tweeps community. Arguing for design bid is Leonard Suskin, an audiovisual design consultant for Shen, Milsom, Wilke. Leonard has been on the consulting side for several years, but he's also been an integrator, so he has an excellent perception on this issue. Arguing for the design build side is Brock McGinnis, sales manager for Westbury National Show Systems, a Toronto-based integration firm. To some as an AV statesman, if you will. Brock has been on the integration side. He is not known as a guy. He is not known as a guy who's shy about sharing his opinion. So he's an ideal debater. We're happy and appreciative to have both of these good sports with us tonight. Okay. More rules. No kicking, no slapping, no biting, no words George Tucker, our producer, may be forced to edit out later. And let's get right to the format, which is Leonard will speak first, giving kind of an opening statement, if you will, 3 to 5 minutes max, his case for design bid, and then I'll throw it to Brock, who will have 3 to 5 minutes to state his case for design build, and then we'll see what happens from there. So Leonard, welcome, and what's your opening statement?
Okay, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Brock, for sharing this evening with me. As you know, I am now on the consultant side of the business. As you said, I started off on the integration side. And there's a lot that I'd not really seen until I moved over to this side. The design bid build process does have a lot going for it. For one thing, the obvious is that it separates the design and the build, and once the client settles in on what their requirements are and a basic design, it lets them shop the best pricing for it. And it lets them shop the best team to realize that. That's something that you can't really do outside of that model. It also separates design from sales, and it puts somebody in charge of the design who doesn't have a stake in selling equipment, doesn't have that conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest. We're a team that is very comfortable, experienced, working with architects, working with other design trades, and that's all we do, and that is a specialty area of focus. It's one that not many, even successful design build firms have to the same extent, because that is not all that they do. And then finally, when you get towards the end of a project, it gives somebody outside of the build team to look at the specifications, at the original intent and contract, and verify, yes, this is done, this should be accepted, and or this, and this needs to be fixed. And then the contractor can get paid, everybody can go home feeling happy and whole and that they got what they want. And less compellingly, but as important, especially because of the chance to get the best price, many organizations have organizational needs or requirements to bid work. So if you want to work for a government sector project, or you want to work often for a large financial institution, that's going to be bid build work, because that's how those organizations protect themselves and their shareholders and make sure that they're getting the best prices. There's also more with how things are moving towards the future, and I think that we will get to that as we move through the topic. But that is a bird's eye view of why the bid build process has a great deal of merit here in the industry.
Okay, well put, Leonard. All right, so Brock, before I throw it to you for your opening statement, I want to read to you a quote from somebody. I want to see if you can guess who said it, okay? We are custom AV integrators, and we're proud of what our systems are able to do for our clients' businesses' processes. Do you have any idea what great man said that? And also, feel free to transition into your opening statement.
Well, I'm not sure, Tom, that that was a great man, but it is a statement that I made, and I made it to David Danko, and I made it to David at an event where he was espousing package box repeatable systems. It was a good exchange of ideas, real good exchange. It was a real good exchange of ideas. Leonard, thank you for that. That was reasoned and calm and entirely uninspiring. You know, the question that's in front of us is whether a client should hire you or whether a client should hire me. That's really what the question is. Are you going to do a better job designing their systems and delivering better value and a better outcome, or am I going to do a better job of that than the consulting community? And I'm actually surprised, because I really expected you to come out with both barrels firing about, what slime balls we were, and that the place of the consultant in the industry was to protect that poor, hapless client from the ruthless, blood-sucking integrator. And you didn't do that. So it kind of blows my whole thing here.
Pretend you did.
But I will advocate strongly for a contractor designing a system versus a consultant designing a system. And it's not exactly the discussion that we were going to have about design bid versus design build, because at least my company, we do both. We do design bid build, in that we offer fee-for-service design work. And I find myself across the table from clients having a discussion about should they hire me or should they hire a third-party design consultant. And here's what I say to them. Consultants write specifications. Integrators build systems. So, from our perspective, all a consultant produces is paperwork. They don't have to install it, integrate it, program it, train people to use it, warranty it, or service it. Consultants leave in the process of delivering a system to an end user. Consultants leave all the work to us, the contractor or the integrator, which is perfect, because that's what we do, and we do it every day. We're experts. We have a boatload of not theoretical experience, but real-world experience, which is why when it comes time for us to design a system, we design it to build it. We don't design it to bid it. We design it to build it. We don't have bubbles on our drawings. We don't have blanks on our bills of materials. We have painstakingly solved every single technical problem in advance. We design with equipment we know works and works together. We've designed with gear that we know is reliable and serviceable and supported by a manufacturer. Because unlike you, Leonard, when we as an integrator design a system, that system has to work. On a design build, there's nobody to milk for a change order. There's nobody to go back to. When we present a design to a client for a specific price, that design has to meet their expectations and it's got to work. We don't get to deliver a specification or a theory and then walk away. We have real skin in the game on how a system works, on how it meets the client's expectations, on how the users like it, on how the users adopt it. We have risk, we have liability, and from a service perspective, we own that system forever. And that's why contractors design better systems than consultants, because consultants don't have that. I have one other point. Consultants will say, as you did, that an independent third-party designer is the only way for a client to get the lowest possible price, which is the first problem. No client should ever want the lowest possible price. Clients should want the best outcome for their money. But there are a lot of clients whose purchasing regulations, as you said, force them to put every project out to bid, and we don't actually have a problem with that. 50% of the work that we do is bid work that consultants have designed. We love consultants. We call it a codependent relationship. You look good, we look good. But the real problem in the process is that consultants don't make enough money. consultants don't get paid enough. Consultants can do spectacular design work. And some of the best projects that I've been involved with at Westbury over the last 16 years have in fact been designed by some great consultants. Unfortunately, most of the time, consultants can't afford to do great work. They're locked into this archaic construction industry paradigm, gives them a percentage of a budget that wasn't appropriate in the first place, or a flat fee that simply isn't enough to give them enough time to do their best work. So for their businesses to be profitable, for your business to be profitable, you got to cut corners and average down. We were joking on Twitter the other day about the cut and paste design. But the reality is that, you know, for consulting firms to work, they've got to use the cheapest possible people in the office to execute the job. And actually, they've got to execute the least amount of work in the least amount of time for it to work. While the brilliant people, the founders, the principals, and I'm not certainly addressing your firm because we really don't know your firm, they spend all their time out shilling for the next project. It's the cheapest possible people doing the least work in the least time because of a system that has devalued what you folks as consultants get paid. Is that a recipe for quality? No. It's a recipe for cut and paste. It's a recipe for bubbles on drawings, for blanks on bills of materials, for having manufacturers do your design work for you. We've got this arena. Can you put a speaker system in there and maybe send us an ease drawing that we can pass on to the bid group? And it's a recipe for passing on a lot of your costs to the bidders to figure out what it was you really intended, and to the winning contractor who has to include thousands of dollars of engineering costs in their bid price to finish the design, a design that the client has ostensibly already paid for. See, as contractors, we're really lucky. We can amortize those design costs in the thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and services that we provide. We can afford the time to do a design correctly. And a system that is fully and properly designed before it's built is a way less expensive system with a way better outcome. So, you know, is it a surprise that I feel contractors design better systems than consultants?
Okay. Well stated, Brock. So, Leonard, I think that the Canadian concept of 3 to 5 minutes is different than we think of here in the U.S. So, I'm going to give you
those were metric minutes, actually.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Leonard, I'm going to give you a chance to rebut, if you wish, because them's were fighting words.
Not at all a problem, and there is a fair bit to answer there. First off, the big red flag at the end, and this is something that we'll get more into later, that you can essentially hide your design costs in equipment costs. And every integrator I've spoken to, including the ones for which I've worked, it's been pretty clear that money is made selling boxes. This is a very dangerous place to be, because now we are moving out of a box selling world. We're moving into a software world, and we're moving into a virtual world. I sometimes talk about the death of the AV system, and this is a topic for another show perhaps, but it certainly puts the business model of I'm going to at 20% margin over what I pay for them, and that's how I'm going to afford my labor and such.
But if you charge a $50,000 design fee and I charge a $50,000 design fee for the same project, and you find that it takes $75,000 worth of time to actually deliver that design, fully integrated, fully engineered, fully biddable to a client, you've got no place to go for the other $25,000. I can write the other $25,000 into across, maybe it's $1 million worth of gear, and it makes it a moot point.
Then we need to fee our jobs better the next time. I don't find myself in that position. I tend to find myself within budget best as I can, and I don't let manufacturers write specs for me or do design for me. Those are arguments against bad consultants. They're not arguments against bid build. And you had a lot of points here, and I am losing the threads of which ones I wanted to reply to.
Well, maybe it's a good time for me to jump in and ask a question and try to take some control of this debate here. So, Leonard, you kind of talked about this a little bit already. I
actually do have one point about contractors designing better systems.
Okay, go for it.
This is the answer I wanted to give, is that a contractor will design an excellent example of the kind of system that contractor is capable of building.
Correct.
And there's the old adage that if the tool that you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
And I couldn't agree more. And I could not agree more that there are contractors. See, you and I are both kind of speaking from the top of the mountain. You are probably the most, you work for the most notable consultant in the world, and arguably, the largest, the most prominent, and the best regarded. And I, because I don't work for you, I don't actually get anything on my nose for saying that. I'm in the same position. I do the same size of projects you do. We do the same complexity of projects that you do. Some of them on a design-build basis. Some of them on a. Not
even necessarily, though, about size and complexity. It's about, is this contractor the best one for this job, or does this job fit what this contractor's strength is? There could be a contractor who is excellent at hardware-based systems, who gets into the design with a client, and it turns out that what they really need is a perhaps very IP-heavy, software-heavy type of system. In which there's a lot of programming work that perhaps contractor A is not best suited for, and it steers the design based on what is in your toolbox. Where in the consulting world, our toolbox is everybody's toolbox, and what we can find somebody somewhere to do. And you can find somebody to do pretty much anything once you have the vision for it, and once you've established, yes, this is what this project needs, this is what this client needs now. So that's kind of the direction I was going in. Your focus on solutions and on building them, yes, it does allow very highly detailed, precise engineering. It also is a big factor in steering the design, not necessarily in line with the needs of the particular project.
But you don't think, Leonard, that we spend exactly the same amount of time with the user as you do, or perhaps more, because we're never hired by the architect. You may be hired by an architect, and your best outcome in a project is to please the architect. Our best outcome in a project is to please a client, because the only way that we win is if we do business with that client again. We've got a happy user. We got people who are adopting whatever the technologies were that they were adopting. We don't care. Software, IP, hardware. There are a lot of integrators who are at least as technically sophisticated as you are, at least as knowledgeable as you are. And I'm not saying you, the person, but the consulting community at large. We're very good at what we do, and our whole focus is on generating such a positive outcome that this customer does business with us again. What is the focus of the consulting community who's hired by real estate management or facilities people or architecture people, as opposed architects, as opposed to the user? What is your ideal outcome?
End of the day, it's the same thing. The end of the day, it is a successful project. If the user is not happy, the user is king, no matter who holds whose contract. If the user is happy, everybody looks good and everybody is happy. And part of a successful project and a successful outcome is working with the architect and the lighting designer and the electrical designers and all of the MEP people and all the people that we in the AV industry don't necessarily like working with.
Oh, we like working with them all. We just don't want to work for them.
Everybody complains about the architect.
We don't want to work for the architect. We never work for the architect. I'm sure you work for the architect a huge proportion of the time.
We do, and that lets us steer things towards a successful project. We are the ones designing the infrastructure that will let the AV system get built. It gives us the chance to be in right at the front and in collaboration with the architect who's going to listen to us because we're their subconsultant, if that's the way this project is set up. We do more often these days work with you directly with users as well, and then with the user for what they want. And we can meld that together and make sure that we're at all of the design meetings to say, yes, the client wants this. We need this amount of space. We need this kind of lighting.
We understand. Leonard, we understand. We're fortunate enough to be involved with the client and the project at the same place in the project development cycle. We love integrated project delivery, IPD. We love sitting at the table with all of those people. But we always want to work for the client, not for the architect, because ultimately we want the client to be happy, not the architect.
At the end of the day, everybody works for the client. At the end of the day, without a happy client, it's not a successful project. And especially, and it starts very early, but also starting a framework that there's a clear finish line. And that's something else I mentioned that you didn't answer, that not only does a good specification set the finish line, now you have somebody with more technical knowledge than the client,
correct,
independent of the build team, to evaluate it at the end and say, yes, this contractor did an excellent job. He reached the finish line we set. He gave you what you need, and you should pay him so he can go home.
So why do we need you to do that? If we walk a client through the systems and say, here's the gear, here's everything that works.
Okay. That sounds funny to me. It doesn't sound as good as it should sound.
Here's how it works.
Better? Okay, I'm the client. It doesn't sound very good. It could sound better.
It doesn't sound very. It doesn't sound very good.
It doesn't sound good to me.
Ah. Oh, okay. I understand. Sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound good. All right. We're going to change it until it sounds good to you. You may have 10 ears, and that's okay, but if you're the client, we'll make it sound bad for everybody else.
Now, the problem with that kind of thing is that you can get into an endless loop of somebody's subjective opinions.
Correct.
Shifting opinions.
I understand.
There's definitely at the construction administration project closeout phase value in taking that specification, which is what we do. We write things.
Right.
And saying, okay, this says that we should have an optimized gain structure.
So your primary value then in this whole process is to come in at the end and say the contractor delivered what they promised.
That's part of our value.
They promised this performance. They promised this bill of materials. They promised that level of connectivity. All right, we have a place for you, Leonard. There is a place in the new business model for consultants because, we're not making any money anymore selling boxes. Nobody's making any money selling boxes. Thank you very much. If you don't make money selling boxes anymore, then where are you going to hide your engineering costs? Well, we're not hiding it. We're amortizing it, man.
Well, where are you going to amortize it then?
Well, it's still a much larger sum of money than, unfortunately, what you end up getting paid. And maybe SMW is different. Maybe every project is just hyper-funded, and you folks are able to do the best work all the time. But our perspective on the consulting industry is most of the time you folks, particularly since the MEPs got into the business as your competitors, you folks are getting beaten down, and I believe there was something on there was something published from the West Coast just last week that addressed this, that it went from 10% to 7% to 5% to whatever the percentage is. Our objectives are exactly the same, Leonard. We want a good outcome for.
Oh no! Did we lose Brock?
We lost Brock.
Wow! He just talked himself right off the internet. I've never seen that done before. All right, so Leonard, I'm gonna have you debate yourself for a minute while Brock gets himself back on.
Okay.
So, can you think of any project scenarios in which what you're debating against, design build, is actually an ideal scenario?
Simple one-off projects, a one-off retrofit where there's not going to be a long investment in time. There's not going to be a lot of complexity. And there's not going to be a larger ecosystem to design. If it's adding a single new huddle space or something, then yeah, maybe you don't really need us, or even adding a single other conference room. Overall, on larger projects, the vision that we bring in the consulting side and the big picture, and again, being a step away from the boxes and microphones and having to sell hardware, has a lot of value. I mean, that's the other perception people get from the design build side, is that Brock's job is to sell you boxes. And he'll sell you boxes, and he'll sell you the boxes that he makes the highest margin on. Perhaps whether or not that's the best box for you.
Wow.
I said perhaps.
Wow.
And I said that's a perception.
Wow. And see, that's the contempt for the contractor that I expected in the opening statement. There's a market value to everything. The market sets the price for things. It's a Crestron box, it's an Extron box, it's an AMX box. There's a market value for everything. There are 3 or 4 or 5 different solutions. As an integrator, and I think I probably speak for a lot of integrators, we don't mind if it's an NEC display or a Panasonic display or a Sharp display. We don't make money on any of them, so it really doesn't matter to us, which one of those displays goes in. We definitely make money on services. And because the services is what is valuable and to the client and valued by the client. The hardware, this AV-IT convergence thing, yeah, we have converged, and we've converged down to their level from a price and a margin point, and that's fine. We either have to charge them for the services at real numbers, or we have to charge them for the goods at at margins. But there's lots of evidence that it's single-digit margins, and it doesn't matter whether it's a design build, or it's a design bid, or a design bid build, because we produce lots of paper that then goes out on the street because our clients have procurement regulations that require them to put things out to bid. University here in Canada has one on the street now. Our name is all over it as the designers because that particular institution is so frustrated with the quality of the workmanship and the attention to detail of the consulting community that they won't deal with them anymore.
So when you as a contractor design something,
yes, nothing proprietary.
For a design bid,
we sign an ethics statement.
Okay. But then how does that relationship work with your competitors as the contractor, or do you design it and then walk away and the winning bidder wins it and it's theirs now and you are...
No, we bid. We bid everything we design. It's
after bidding through the build process. Are you still there?
If another contractor is doing implementing the project, and if we have a commissioning role, and that really is the role that we take, because we can't do the bid evaluations. The client is going to decide what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. But if we have a commissioning relationship, yes, and it's it's something that's defined on paper as yours is. This is exactly what we do. This is the process. This is the time that we do it. This is the sign off. And to a certain extent, I agree with you about the necessity for a verification process at the end of a project, because as a consultant, you know darn well that you throw a bid out there to a client, you have no control what they're going to do with it after it leaves your office. That client picks the absolutely lowest price, qualified or not, whether they met your standards.
That's actually not always true.
It's not always true, but it's certain.
Organizational reasons for this back and forth.
Sure.
But this is another place where we add value, is in evaluating bids and bidders.
If they allow you to do so.
And and sometimes they do. Again, there are organizational reasons.
Yeah.
I've often seen the lowest price not win. I've never seen the highest price win.
No. No, which is why we only win 1 in 6 bids. But if the lowest price does bid, if it's an electrical contractor, if it's a comms contractor, if it's somebody taking on a $2.5 million job that didn't have $2.5 million in revenue last year, yes, you need somebody at the end of that process to make sure the client is getting what they paid, what they paid for. No question about that. And we will fill that role as well, although to date, we've never had to do it. If we design it, we build it.
Okay.
The bid process is because of procurement regulations. Sorry, Tom, have we cut you off again?
No, not at all.
Repeatedly?
No, you haven't cut me off at all. You guys have been great bouncing off of each other, which is what this debate should be. But we do have to move toward the point where we wrap it up. So I want to ask you guys each one more question, and during the context of answering it, 2-minute answers, I'd say. You can also use it as an opportunity to sort of give your closing statements.
Are those metric minutes or imperial minutes?
We're gonna go U.S. minutes for this one.
All right.
Now, Leonard, what do you think needs to happen in the design bid model in terms of evolving over the next few years in order for it to stay relevant? Where does the model need to go?
This is a question that we ask ourselves every single day. And this is a time when the industry is changing more than I've seen it change. It's bigger than the change from analog to digital. Digital systems still had the same topology as analog systems. We're really moving to a place where the AV system as we know it is largely vanishing, except for real specialty spaces. We need to move away from focusing on specifying or selling boxes, which is going to be a much harder move for contractors because box selling is what they do. We're going to have to move away from looking at the cost of equipment and gear and installation and more at long-term total cost of ownership in keeping software up to date, in staffing largely software-based systems, and in creating systems that are scalable, that can grow, and that are less the standalone AV systems that we've come to know and love, and more a part of a unified communication, identity, and presentation infrastructure. This is where I feel the consultant market is very strong. What we do is knowledge, and what we do is learn. And if all the boxes went away tomorrow, and all the labor went from dirty fingernails and busted knuckles climbing up a ladder labor to unboxing consumer goods and some owner-furnished computer and putting software into it, maybe baking up some custom software for it, we can do that. We can do that as well as we can do what we do now. And we don't have to sell boxes for it. We don't have to rely on kind of a fading and dying model. And we can still be a partner too, the architect, the client, and everybody else in a project. So that's where I feel, are going. It's a scary time, but it's an exciting time. And I'll close with that and let Brock take one more swing. I know he's itching too.
Well said, Leonard. And Brock, to you, the same question about the design build community.
I think that clients need people who are going to take care of them. They're going to take care of them over the long term. Our model is not based on boxes. Our model is based on outcomes. And if there are boxes required for outcomes, it's the same as if there's software required for outcomes. Doesn't matter if something is carried down a proprietary cable or carried over the internet. People need the ability, Leonard, to present, to communicate, to educate, to collaborate, and they're going to need somebody to talk to them about that and help them do that and help them learn how to do that. And whether that is you in an ivory tower or me with feet on the street helping them hands-on on a day-to-day basis, doing pilot projects for them, giving them demonstrations, teaching them how to use something, and helping their staffs move forward. I think we will always both have a place in market. End users will hire us. The great thinkers will hire you. And in the end, we'll continue to be what we are today, which is codependent. For you to do good work today, you need me. And for me to get some of the best projects that are available and out there on the market, I need you. So I think there's also an opportunity moving forward to go together.
And that is a great statement on which to end. I'll add that I have worked on your side. I have projects now racing towards that finish line, and having a good partner who we can work together on
Yes.
the integrator side makes every bit of difference in everybody looks good. I look good, you look good,
Correct.
the architect looks good for hiring me,
Correct.
you look good for doing good work.
And the client gets the best outcome.
So
Okay.
that could be a final
That's a final. You guys did great. Everything's good.
Is this where you cue the Kumbaya music?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
good.
You guys reach across the screens and shake hands. You guys did an excellent job debating. I'd say you both have a future as cable news commentator / arguers. Leonard, you said box seller so many times it's going to become part of the lexicon in the country, I think. All right, so I want to remind everybody that after we're done with this broadcast, there's going to be a after show, so you can join and you can ask questions to the group. I want to remind everybody that you have to go on Twitter and you have to vote using AVCrosstalk. Pick a winner. Who won? Was it Brock? Was it Leonard? They both did a great job, but you got to pick a winner, and that's half the fun. So don't miss out on that part. Thanks so much to Brock McGinnis and to Leonard Suskin. You guys did a great job tonight. Thanks to AVNation, particularly to producer George Tucker for providing this platform. I'm Tom LeBlac. Thanks for letting me be part of this. We're signing off, and we'll see you on Twitter. AV Tweets.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AV Nation.